I've already beaten the campaign in this game, and I've beaten it a second time on a friend's campaign. So I have played quite a bit of this already. So we'll have to see which stuff there is to do. Seems like there is quite a bit that we could do. I know I've done one of these. Yeah, I cleaned this. Now, I did the mini golf course on a friend's account, but maybe, I guess if we don't need to have the DLC for these, we could work on. Oh, this looks kind of fun. All the different colored paintball things. I'll keep that one in mind. For anyone who's wondering why I haven't posted in like a bajillion years, or like a couple months, if you're okay, these ones are for purchase, but these ones are for free. Okay. Yeah, okay, so those four are for purchase. Okay, maybe we'll do the paintball arena. But yeah, for anyone who is wondering, actually, before I go in, I have a strong feeling this is going to be slightly too loud, so we're going to do that. Where was it? In here. There we go. This job will reset any progress on other bonus jobs. That's fine. We'll figure this out as we go. We've got our buddy Fitzgerald, one of our cats here, sitting with us. But, yeah. There we go. I am a C button presser when I play this game. Now let's turn that down a little bit more. Options. We'll just take that down to about there. There we go. But yeah. So, I haven't been around for a while because I started a new job and getting home from work, and then spending an hour recording seemed like a lot, even though the job really wasn't that demanding. But now I've kind of got it handled a little bit more, and well, while honestly, hopefully I'm hoping to find a new job at some point in the near-ish future. I figured if I ever wanted to do, have more followers, it only makes sense that I would need to post more videos. And I will say I do feel kind of bad. I did record some videos. I have some unreleased Pokemon videos from when the new packs released a while back. I'm still playing the Pokemon card game, although I will say I haven't been playing as much. I also have started playing Call of the Wild's spin-off game, The Angler. I've been playing it with my dad, actually. When I was a kid, he used to take us fishing. And so, while I'm not, by any means good at fishing, I definitely know more about fishing than I did about hunting. And so, when I saw it was on sale a little while back, I told my brother, and we both tried it out, and we said, wow, this is pretty fun. Maybe our dad would like to play it, and so we got him to try it, and I will say he plays a lot of games, but like comparatively for someone his age, but he's not like a hardcore gamer at all. He's more of like a casual, like he likes to play Skyrim a whole bunch, and he used to play like Grand Theft Auto and some, I think Red Dead Redemption was one of his favorites. So he's a big fan of open world games that have a lot of different things that you can do. And so we got this fishing game to see if he would maybe like it, and it seemed like he liked it quite a bit, so we've been playing that a little bit with him. But yeah, so that's been fun. I have a couple other videos recorded. I just never, when you're working, you don't really want your personal time to be spent. Oh, I already finished cleaning it. You don't really want to use your personal time to play games on a recording. So a lot of stuff I haven't really been recording. I've recently gotten back into a gacha game that I used to play a whole bunch a few years back called Knights. And I have also, look, I'm not proud of this, but I have also recently started playing the horse racing girl anime game, Uma Musama. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced, but I've been playing a little bit of that, and I was actually trying to decide between playing Power Wash Simulator or Uma Musume, and I thought, you know what, maybe I'll wait until my account is a little bit better in Uma before I do anything, because right now, if I was to show anybody all of my runs recently, it is a lot of C's and D's due to a lack of support cards and trying to make not bad horses, but like horses that are like long distance and ones that I just kind of like the look of work rather than using like just the meta cards to just try and build up a good account. So I think I'm coming to terms with that. I'm going to start working towards a good account. I'm going to have to pause here for a second. One of our cats wants to get out of the office, so I'm going to pause. Okay, I'm back. She was nice enough to go and sit next to the door, so I figured I better let her out before she starts clawing at it. And we'll just see how much we can get done in a reasonable amount of time. Maybe this will be a two-part video, depending on how dirty all of this is. We'll have to see if I remember all of my editing presets and everything, because I had a bunch of stuff set up and I haven't used it in a while, and honestly that's another reason that I should be playing and doing more recording, just to make sure I don't get rusty, because it's really tough to come back after you haven't done something for a while and be as confident with it, because I'm never gonna like completely forget video editing or image editing and stuff, but if you don't do it for a while, you will get a little bit rusty. I'm missing a little bit on the ramp. Maybe there's some bits up here at the top that I'm missing. Is this part of the ramp? Yep. I bet there's a little bit right there. Oh, I thought for sure that would be the last. Maybe the underneath side of that is also part of it. But yeah, another thing I've been really wanting to do, and I just haven't been able to. You know how you get into a funk and you really just want to try something, and then you can't really just like force yourself to. You just don't have the motivation to actually commit and finish something. Well, I've been wanting to do some solo RPG playing. Solo, like tabletop RPG playing. And I have a couple that I had picked out. So I've got like a journaling game with, oh no, I'm gonna forget the name of it now. And I had just moved the book for it into a different room. So of course there it is. But yeah, so I had this book where you're supposed to be writing a journal for a witch who is making potions for people in a town. Or I guess it doesn't have to be a witch, it could be like an alchemist or something. And so you're like a new alchemist and you are writing a journal that is talking about your life as you kind of help people. So you kind of just like write about your day, and then you can go exploring to find ingredients, and then people will bring their problems to you, and you try and make the potions that will solve their problems, or go adventuring to try and find the ingredients that are needed to make the potions that will solve their problems. Can't remember my character's name off the top of my head that I had created to test the game out, but my whole idea was that I had made this while I was on vacation, and so my character was from the location, or from a similar location to where we were, which was, the south of the States. So it was a boy who wasn't really fit to be a potion maker, but in order to make up for the fact that he didn't really know anything, he was living in a town that already had a potion maker, and they had disappeared. So he was basically volunteered to be the new potion maker in town. They had a blind draw because they needed somebody to take over, and so he went to the witch's house, who was gone, and basically took over all of her stuff and tried to learn. And I had completed my first mission with him, which was to go and make a potion for a bird who had hurt its wing and had basically run into the window of the house. And so he went to go find ingredients for a potion to save this little bird, who then thanked him by dropping off some money on his front step, which, doesn't really make sense, but you could say that the bird wasn't really a bird, it was some person in disguise, because once you're in the magic world, anything is really possible. But this is one of the things where I was thinking maybe I could start doing storytelling videos where I have I run a lot of D&D campaigns in the past. I probably wouldn't, use any of those. I've got lots of ideas for stories stuck up in my head. But I was thinking I could write and tell some, D&D-esque stories for you guys. Kind of basically just like a bedtime story. I actually had ideas I was going to do a long form video series, but I figured I really didn't have the resources to do it. What I wanted to do, look, if you have any inkling to want to work on any of these ideas, feel free. You have my permission. Or, reach out to me. We could work on it together. I love the idea of a D&D ASMR show where it only focuses on the long rests that the party takes between sessions. You could basically have a party that you either, talk out what happens between sessions, or you basically pick cast members that would be playing different characters and kind of do improv ASMR content talking about what happened in the previous sessions. So you could talk about like different aspects of the characters' backstories or different crazy things that could have happened. Or you could even do like a ask the audience what do they think happened between the sessions, and then have people vote or have the actors pick which one they think is the most interesting. Anything like that could be just like a really interesting concept for ASMR. And then you get a few different people who do ASMR to do the voices for the characters. And you could have a pretty cool idea right there. I know also that there are some people in the ASMR space that do D&D stuff. I remember I watched GB ASMR did a video where she talked about her D&D characters, and I loved listening to that. Here's the thing. I find that my favorite, like, anyone who knows really that much about D&D could probably tell you that nobody ever wants to hear in the D&D community. Everybody wants to tell you about their D&D campaign that they're currently in or that they ran one time, but nobody who's in the D&D community wants to hear somebody else's stories about the campaign that they ran one time or the character that they really love, because it's really just a medium that has to be experienced, I find a lot of the time. And like obviously there's things like Critical Role or things where you have like professionals creating these epic stories, but like even within those circles, I find that you could probably throw a stick and hit 1,000 different actual plays that don't really go anywhere. And I mean that as somebody who really enjoys, like I'm saying that as someone who really enjoys actual plays. Like I watched all of season 1 and 2 of Critical Role, and I just really haven't had the time to get into season 3. But I listened to all of season 2. And season 1 I've listened to all, well, maybe maybe not all of season 1, but I've listened to most of season 1. And I've watched all of the episodes of the animation. So, I'm not coming from it saying that, actual plays are usually bad from a place of hate. I'm coming from a place of love and understanding that it is a difficult market to break into. We're gonna talk about actual plays that I've listened to in the past, because there's some really good ones out there, and I think honestly my favorite one, and I haven't listened to it in a long time. I'm not sure if there's still a really well. I know that the actual play isn't really ongoing anymore because it's kind of been morphed into a different version of itself, but I'm not sure if that version is still going at all, or if they've kind of slowly weaned it down towards some sort of other form of itself. But my favorite actual play that really got me into Dungeons and Dragons in the first place is called the Campaign podcast, with James D'Amato, JPC, and I can't remember the other two's names. I can't remember the DM. Cat. I want to say Cat something. And Lena Kilo of the Minoc is the only way that I know. It's funny because I know JPC's name, but I can't remember his character name. And I remember Lenik Kilo's name, but I can't remember the person who played him's name. I want to say it's something Omara. Anyways, it's a Star Wars actual play podcast, and it was improvisers that were professional improvisers that were doing the character work for these names, and it was the funniest actual play I've probably still ever seen. There were lots of moments that made me laugh out loud, and it was honestly very well done. It did eventually, unfortunately, kind of fall apart over time. There were some health issues for one of the members of the cast, and so they kind of weaned off, and then they turned one of the cast members left, and then after that cast member left, they decided to kind of change the campaign. They restarted with their own system, and don't get me wrong, those episodes are still really good, but then after a while, JPC, who is one of the members of their crew, became successful with a different podcast that he was a part of, and ended up leaving the show because it didn't make sense for him to do both, because he didn't really have time anymore. So he was probably my favorite improviser on the show, and once he was gone, I kind of lost interest over time. Not to say I do feel bad, because I did really, really like the other improvisers on the show, and the new improvisers that they brought on were really good, but it's tough because you only have so much time, and you have to decide what things you want to spend it on. Anyways, this has kind of been a ramble so far, but again, these almost look like they drew little since it kind of petered out. But very funny, very good characters, very well developed campaign, and honestly, it was one of the things that made me really like Star Wars before Disney, ruined Star Wars. And honestly, lately I've been listening to like every episode of A Riddle, which is the podcast that JPC actually left campaign in order to work on, and it is insanely funny. It has Aaron Keefe, who I think is in I want to say Sitcom D&D. I don't know if Sitcom D&D is still ongoing. I kind of started with the recent episodes of the podcast, and now I'm working my way backwards through it, because when A Riddle first came out, I want to say like 5 years ago, is when I first started listening to it. And then I kind of, stopped at some point. And now that I have, because when I'm at work, I have some time to listen to podcasts as I'm working. Now I get to go through all of the different episodes, and maybe I did it wrong, because I honestly don't know what episode I had listened up to. But so I decided I was just gonna go to the newest episodes and go backwards through all of them, which means that there's a lot of times where there's like a bit that will happen, and it will be a reference to something that happened in a previous episode, and then like 20 episodes later I'll get to that, and then I'll go, oh, that's why that happened. So, maybe it's not the best way to have done it, but you wouldn't have to do that. You could start at the very beginning and go through the episodes in the proper order. But yeah, I think all of this started because I was talking about ideas I had, and also the fact that I had recorded things but didn't post them. And the real reason I didn't post them is just, time and effort it takes in order to get things up. Plus I had noticed a small dip in views, and when you're trying to grow the channel, having that little dip can kind of be, a little sad. But I will say I do feel bad, because lately there have been a couple comments that were really, really nice, and they basically happened right before I took a huge hiatus and stopped recording for a long time. So hopefully, if those people are still watching, and I know sometimes with ASMR you will find a video that just kind of works for whatever weird bug you have in your brain that makes you sleep, and so you listen to it for a million years, because that's just what your brain likes. I personally think that I've probably listened to Ephemeral Rift for way too many hours of my life, just because there's a few of his videos that I will put on a giant loop. There we go, we got the archway. I was worried there's like a ladder or something over here. Oh, well, there's a step ladder. Alright, we got more cleaned than I thought. Went around, got all of that. Alright. Let's do this tunnel. That seems like a good way to probably finish this off, because I don't think we're going to get this whole thing done. Although, we're only 31 minutes in-ish. So maybe we'll get it all completed today. Depending, obviously. I just looked over at my recording. I don't even know if hang on, I'm gonna bring up the volume a little bit. Okay, well, I think the audio was just slightly too low. Well, we'll see. Maybe you guys can hear this. Maybe you can't with the nozzle. And maybe if you could, it would be a bad thing. Oh, our little cat. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear that, but he just made a little grunt. He's curled up next to the microphone, which normally I would assume that you can hear it, because most things that happen in the office here where I'm recording seem to get picked up whenever I'm recording. But for some reason, cats just seem to be immune, where if I'm talking to someone and the cats are bothering me, they will just not be able to hear them no matter what. The cats could be screaming on the other side of the room, and the person will still not be able to hear them at all. It must just be the tone that they meow at. It just doesn't really get picked up. But we'll see. Maybe if it's little sleepy noises will be on the microphone. We'll see. Maybe now you guys are finally hearing the dings. I don't know if maybe I had the audio too low earlier. These tracks, and then we'll start looking at the walls. There we go. A lot of times in these videos, I find that I get really rambly, and I keep thinking to myself, you know, you probably shouldn't talk as much as you do, because if you do, I know for me, a lot of times, the best ASMR videos are the ones that aren't constantly talking, but a lot of the ones where it's much slower paced conversation with some thoughtful pausing and some deliberate spacing in the words. But I think if I just start doing that now, it would throw off the whole vibe of this video halfway through. And while we're at it, why don't I just talk about my pet peeves when it comes to ASMR? So, I, being now a 33-year-old man, have some different tastes that I've grown into with ASMR, and usually I have to say my favorite videos are going to be role plays of some sort, or a very specific sound exploration of some sort. My favorite ASMR artist of all time has to be Ephemeral Temporal Rift. He just has such a different style to how he does his recording, and one thing that I really don't like when I'm watching ASMR videos is because usually for myself I use ASMR to help me sleep, and I've been doing that since high school, probably. So really the thing that bothers me the most when I'm watching an ASMR video is I will find a video that I really love and it's going very well, and then about a third of the way through, like a 30-minute video, they just completely change up the style of how they're recording or what they're doing. So, say you're watching a video where there's a person wearing gloves who's poking the camera, pretending to give you like a checkup or something. And then partway through the video, they just suddenly pull out a hairbrush and start scraping it against the microphone. And maybe the scraping the hairbrush against the microphone works for that person. But if I was just barely getting to sleep, and now suddenly there's a hairbrush being scraped against a microphone in my ear, and it isn't even better sound than the one that I'd already settled on going into the video when I listened to the first little bit and said, yeah, this is what I'm going to listen to go to bed. Then suddenly now I am listening to a different sound that is worse in that moment for me to try and fall asleep to. And so in that moment, I'm listening to something that is not going to help me in falling asleep, which I don't know if you notice in videos is why a lot of times I try and keep an even cadence or consistent volume, maybe not always being achieved, because every once in a while there's that moment in an ASMR video that is just like one that you'll replay because it was a very good moment. But anyways, I know it's weird. I've been listening to and, thinking about this stuff for years and years, so it's very strange to think about it as hard as I do. Oh man, how did I miss enough on the track that it hasn't gone off yet? Maybe there's just some big stretch I missed. There's a big chunk right there. Maybe it's just that there's a bunch over here. Yeah, there's a bunch over here. And some over here. I'm so surprised that this hasn't gone off yet. Oh, I guess I should probably clean these ones too. There we go. Okay, well, that looks clean. Let's clean these things. Okay, so yeah. Anyways, the idea is that if you enjoy my videos, it's probably because you enjoy the cadence of how I talk. Eventually, I'm probably going to just start doing random things because you never know what could be someone's favorite ASMR video of all time. Oh, is that both sides? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. Alright, now let's do the exit sign. How does it still have so much? See, because I guess it probably has this side too. There we go. But yeah, as far as other video ideas go, I'm planning on doing an Uma Musume video at some point in the near future, hopefully. And then beyond that, we will see. Maybe I'll do Call of the Wild, the Angler video. I can't think of any reason that wouldn't be one of the more relaxing things I could do with literal just sitting, casting out, reeling in. Although the bell sound for catching a fish can be kind of loud, but I could probably find a setting to turn that down. I hope my mouse hasn't been too loud through this video. The spot where my cat likes to sit on our computer desk here is pretty much where I usually keep my mouse, so I just have a book off to the side, sitting in a place where I can put the mouse to not bother the cat, because why would you ever want to wake up a cat that's enjoying a nice sleep on a desk next to you? That's just mean-spirited. This is gonna be a nice satisfying ding. Maybe. There we go. No, the post. Is that this post? No, that is this post. Oh, there we go. I just wasn't paying attention. Missed a whole bunch. Underneath that. There we go. Oh, I'm missing a whole bunch. What are some other things we could talk about here today? But yeah, there's a whole bunch of different tabletop RPG solo games that I was thinking we could maybe try. There's one where the whole idea is you are a truck driver who has just dropped off a load of something in one side of a country, and as you are driving back, there's some sort of world-ending style, strange, phenomenal events that keep happening, and you're convinced that it's the end of the world, or at least the end of what the world is currently, and you are trying to get home to someone, whether it is a significant other or a family member or a pet. And as you go through the game, you are either, writing journal entries, or the more interesting version of how they say you can write things down is you kind of basically draw cards, and it tells you what event, like strange otherworldly event, happened that day, and then you are supposed to be finding a phone booth at the end of each week or each day, or some amount of time within the game. And as you find these phone booths at the end of each day, you are leaving a voicemail for the person that you are going to see, because no matter how many times you call, they don't answer the phone. And so it's all up to you whether at the end of your journey the the person is there, or if something may have possibly happened to them. But it's basically you sending messages to say, hey, I'm still coming, and like basically telling them that you're still on your way and you hope that they're okay, and explaining to them the strangeness that you've been experiencing in the world on your path home. It's very, very kind of sad, but at the same time very kind of, hopeful, depending on how you play it. Wow, we're getting pretty far in this. Looking over at my timer here, we've actually been going for quite a while. So I think we're going to do a little bit on this rock over here. And I'm going to find one more thing for us to clean. And then we're going to call it. So, I'm going to say we're going to clean this right here. We're going to clean this cactus, and then we're going to call it a night. This is a little bit different of a recording session. I can't remember if I'd mentioned off the top of this session, but usually when I recorded, it was in the early afternoon or in the morning when my wife was at work. But tonight she's, already just gone to bed because, well, technically I should also be going to bed soon because we gotta get up in the morning for work. But there we go. But I'm here recording this for you. And I hope that these little chicken looking things, along with you, all have a good night's sleep. And I'll see